肚子饿吃萝卜糕，英文难听萝卜糕。谢谢来听萝卜糕播客。
我是罗伯特其中一个女生的朋友 Sylvia。
你好，女生的朋友。This week we are reading How the Whale Got His Throat by Rudyard Kipling. It's from the Just So stories written by Rudyard Kipling.
From a Just So story.
你知道吗 Just So?
什么是 Just So？Just
So 是 OK， 所以那个作家是一个爸爸，一个爸爸每天晚上跟他的女儿说一个 night 的 story， 是一个 bedtime story。他写他自己的 bedtime stories， 所以那个女儿很喜欢听这些 bedtime stories。But
what?
If he said them at all different， 他很生气，他需要每次说。
谁很生气？
那个女儿，就是那个女儿，对，他
跟我一样脾气不好，
对，很调皮。他说：“爸爸，你需要说，每次你需要说一模一样。”
一模一样。
对，如果爸爸不说一模一样，那个女儿不想听。
哇哦！
爸爸需要外面坐。
爸爸需要坐在外面。
对，他需要坐在外面，然后在外面睡觉。
以后我也这样对你。
对，我说你不可以进来。
It's a scary story.
对，很可怕。
Oh my god! Can you go outside?
Welcome to 萝卜糕, an English learning story podcast where we read classic stories and review that vocab on the old Quizlet. I'm your host, Robert, or 萝卜特, and this week we are reading How the Whale Got His Throat from Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling. The Just So stories are origin stories about how animals got their claws or humps or teeth or spots. Kipling wrote these stories for his daughter Josephine and called them Just So stories because he had to read them to her just so, that is, just as Josephine was used to, or Josephine would complain. Now, here's How the Whale Got His Throat by Rudyard Kipling. In the sea, once upon a time, oh my best beloved, there was a whale, and he ate fishes. He ate the starfish, and the garfish, and the crab, and the dab, and the plaice, and the dace, and the skate, and his mate, and the mackerel, and the pickerel, and the really, truly, twirly, whirly eel, all the fishes he could find in all the sea he ate with his mouth so, till at last there was only one small fish left in all the sea, and he was a small snoot fish. And he swam a little behind the whale's right ear, so as to be out of harm's way. Then the whale stood up on his tail and said, "I'm hungry." And the small stute fish said in a small stute voice, "Noble and generous cetacean, have you ever tasted man?" "No," said the whale. "What is it like?" "Nice," said the small stute fish. "Nice, but nubbly." "Then fetch me some," said the whale, and he made the sea froth up with his tail. "One at a time is enough," said the stute fish. "If you swim to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, that is magic, you will find sitting on a raft in the middle of the sea with nothing on but a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders, you must not forget the suspenders, best beloved, and a jackknife, one shipwrecked mariner who, it is only fair to tell you, is a man of infinite resource and sagacity." So the whale swam and swam to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, as fast as he could swim, and on a raft in the middle of the sea with nothing to wear except a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders. You must particularly remember the suspenders, best beloved. And a jackknife. He found one single solitary shipwrecked mariner trailing his toes in the water. He had his mummy's leave to paddle, or else he would never have done it, because he was a man of infinite resource and sagacity. Then the whale opened his mouth back and back and back till it nearly touched his tail, and he swallowed the shipwrecked mariner, and the raft he was sitting on, and his blue canvas breeches, and the suspenders, which you must not forget, and the jackknife. He swallowed them all down into his warm, dark inside cupboards. And then he smacked his lips so and turned round 3 times on his tail. But as soon as the mariner, who was a man of infinite resource and sagacity, found himself truly inside the whale's warm, dark inside cupboards, he stumped, and he jumped, and he thumped, and he bumped, and he pranced, and he danced, and he banged, and he clanged, and he hit, and he bit, and he leaped, and he creeped, and he prowled, and he howled, and he hopped, and he dropped, and he cried as he sighed, and he crawled as he bawled, and he stepped, and he leapt. And he danced hornpipes where he shouldn't, and the whale felt most unhappy indeed. Have you forgotten the suspenders? So he said to the 'Stute-fish, "This man is very nubbly, and besides, he is making me hiccup. What shall I do?" "Tell him to come out," said the 'Stute-fish. So the whale called down his throat to the shipwrecked mariner, "Come out and behave yourself. I've got the hiccups." "Nay, nay," said the mariner, "not so, but far otherwise. Take me to my natal shore and the white cliffs of Albion, and I'll think about it." And he began to dance more than ever. "You had better take him home," said the 'Stute-fish to the whale. "I ought to have warned you that he is a man of infinite resource and sagacity." So the whale swam and swam and swam with both flippers and his tail as hard as he could for the hiccups. And at last he saw the mariner's natal shore and the white cliffs of Albion, and he rushed halfway up the beach, and opened his mouth wide and wide and wide, and said, "Change here for Winchester, Ashuelot, Nashua, Keene, and stations on the Fitchburg Road." And just as he said Fitch, the mariner walked out of his mouth. But while the whale had been swimming, the mariner, who was indeed a person of infinite resource and sagacity, had taken his jackknife and cut up the raft into a little square grating all running crisscross, and he had tied it firm with his suspenders. Now, you know you were not to forget the suspenders. And he dragged that grating good and tight into the whale's throat, and there it stuck. Then he recited the following sloka, which, as you have not heard it, I will now proceed to relate. "By means of a grating I have stopped your eating." For the mariner, he was also a Hibernian, and he stepped out on the shingle and went home to his mother, who had given him leave to trail his toes in the water, and he married and lived happily ever afterward. So did the whale, but from that day on, the grating in his throat, which he could neither cough up nor swallow down, prevented him eating anything except very, very small fish. And that is the reason why whales nowadays never eat men or boys or little girls. The small 'Stute-fish went and hid himself in the mud under the door sills of the equator. He was afraid that the whale might be angry with him. The sailor took the jackknife home. He was wearing the blue canvas breeches when he walked out on the shingle. The suspenders were left behind, you see, to tie the grating with, and that is the end of the tale. When the cabin portholes are dark and green because of the seas outside, when the ship goes whop with a wiggle between, and the steward falls into the soup tureen, and the trunks begin to slide, when Nursey lies on the floor in a heap, and Mummy tells you to let her sleep, and you aren't waked or washed or dressed, why then you will know, if you haven't guessed, you're 50 north and 40 west. And that, my friends, is how the whale got his throat. Come back next episode for how the camel got his hump. Lobogao is an English learning podcast. My name is Lobote. Want more Lobogao? Me too. You know, I'm hungry. Do not forget to review your vocabulary on Quizlet. Links are in the episode description. If you have any questions or would like to suggest a story I read, please email me at robertsenglishpodcast@gmail.com. That's ROBERTS English Podcast at gmail.com.